So I wanted to talk about an idea that I think has gotten beaten into the ground so hard that we might actually have preconceived notions that might be unfair, depending on who you ask. Because today I wanted to talk about the Vancouver Canucks and their third overall pick. In fact, maybe this isn't even about Vancouver. Maybe this is just about the prospect in general that I wanted to highlight today, because in this video, I wanted to continue our conversations on one Caleb Malhotra of the 2026 NHL Entry Draft. Malhotra, of course, is the son of newly appointed Vancouver Canucks head coach Manny Malhotra. And while it does not seem too ideal to have a rookie NHL head coach and a top prospect belong to the same organization, it does seem like it's a possibility. Now, we have spoken about Caleb Malhotra and his timeline. He is not going to be an NHL player right away. At the very least, he'll spend a year with the Boston University Terriers in the NCAA. Maybe he'll spend 2 years there. Who really knows? But the point is, he is not going to be an NHL player right away, so maybe if you wanted to create some separation between the father and the son within their hockey playing careers, there is another year's worth of time for you to do that if you're Vancouver. But I wanted to talk also about the potential and the upside of Caleb Malhotra, because I've had this conversation with a bunch of my buddies in real life. I've had this conversation with people in public who have noticed me and recognized me in retail spaces, so big shout out over to anybody who wants to talk shop, wants to talk hockey with me personally. Of course, I appreciate it whenever somebody wants to come up and chat with me. Yeah, no, I'm not that unrecognizable, it seems. It's kind of interesting, maybe because I'm short. It gives it away, doesn't it? But the amount of conversations I've had in real life over the past few weeks about Caleb Malhotra, it always goes something along the lines of, hey, Lego, what do you think about Caleb Malhotra being Vancouver's third overall pick? And I always say the same thing. It's like, at this point, I'm fully expecting the Vancouver Canucks to draft Caleb Malhotra third overall, but from my perspective, it's just, I doubt whether or not he is the highest ceiling option available at third overall. There are 3 guys that I think stand out to me right away that I could say have a higher ceiling, quote-unquote, than Caleb Malhotra. I've got Ivar Stenberg as a player with a higher ceiling, and in an ideal world, Stenberg would probably be taken second overall. It's just we don't know if that's going to happen. He's a winger. He ain't a center. He's not going to address Vancouver's need down the middle. You also have Chase Reed, who has the potential to be a number 1 defenseman. And this sort of Zach Werenski mold on the right side blue line, that's a really strong player, and I think Reed has a high ceiling. There are questions about his defensive game and his commitment in the back end, which we have made videos about as well, but I'd say that Chase Reed has definite potential to being a top 2, top 1 guy on an NHL blue line. And then I go even so far as to say Viggo Bjork out of Sweden has a higher ceiling than Caleb Malhotra. I've had this conversation so many times in real life, but it seems to be a realistically common consensus that Viggo Bjork has that player comparison to a guy like a Nick Suzuki or a Braden Point. More versatile, more offensively skilled, still effective two-way, but definite number 1 center material. And I've seen people comparing Caleb Malhotra to the likes of Bo Horvat, Matty Beniers, guys that aren't bad, guys that you would like to have on your team, but are they number 1 centers? I think a lot of people would say no. They can score goals, they can score points, but can they create in the same way that a Braden Point or a Nick Suzuki can? I don't know. And that's been sort of the common theme amongst conversations I've had with people in this city about Caleb Malhotra at third overall. But I wanted to turn your attention to some stats and some conversation points that may be pushing the idea instead that Canucks fans, like me, could actually be underrating Caleb Malhotra. Take a look at what JFresh posted earlier last week. Caleb Malhotra is our highest rated center, but he still comes near the end of our top 10. If you want to be optimistic, his late riser status and bloodlines are encouraging. He seems like a high-floor, two-way center who showed more upside as the season went along. They have Malhotra at a 13 percentile chance of becoming an NHL star and an 83% chance of becoming an NHLer, period. So I'd say 83% of being a player in the league is reasonably good. At third overall, you would probably assume that you want a 100% chance player, but it's hard to find anybody at 100%. 13% chance of becoming a star, though. That's not ideal. A star is defined by JFresh's model as a top 20 percentile player in wins above replacement per 82 games amongst forwards. So, can Caleb Malhotra be an 80-plus percentile player? The model is saying it doesn't know. However, you also had Nick, who went out there and posted this. Nick does watch the stat stuff. He's also part of UC Berkeley Data Science. Caleb Malhotra's 25-26 OHL stats. He had a 1.25 points per game in the regular season and a 1.86 points per game in the playoffs, with 26 points in 14 games. This offensive explosion has nearly doubled his projection and will likely bring him from 11th overall in my draft rankings up to 3rd or 4th. Watch the stats that has the graphic over here. It says that Caleb Malhotra's projected tier is a possible first-line player, and he's got a 47% chance of doing that. So, watch the stats model says that Malhotra has a 47% chance of being a first-liner. JFresh's model says Caleb Malhotra has a 13% chance to become a top 20 percentile wins above replacement player amongst forwards. Two different models, two different results. For what it's worth, Western hockey scout Pete Hughes went out there and said this, that I keep talking Vancouver fans off the cliff as they might miss out on Stenberg. Just take Malhotra. A 44% chance to get a number 1 center in this draft is something to be happy about. If Malhotra ends up as a legit 1C, you probably get the best player in this draft, besides Viggo Bjork, who could become a Calgary Flame. A reply to this tweet says Malhotra over McKenna. I mean, if he hits his ceiling, absolutely. You have Nikhil saying, hey, people are actually sleeping on Caleb Malhotra. And one of the replies on this tweet says, people think missing out on Stenberg is missing out on a generational talent. It's just not the case. I'd pick Stenberg, but you can build a winner with either. And I think with that said, there are conversations to have about where these players can go, and for me personally, I just have this idea that Caleb Malhotra is a win with his heart type of guy, down the middle, a solid two-way center who could score some clutch points, but is he going to score many points? I don't know. Is he going to get consistently outscored year by year by a guy like Ivar Stenberg? I'd say that's very well possible. In fact, maybe I'd even bet on it if I were forced to do that. I just wonder whether or not Vancouver Canucks fans are fully evaluating the situation the best that we can, because reports are coming out, numbers are coming out, breakdown models are coming out that have Malhotra all over the place. What are the odds that this guy becomes a first-line center? What are the odds that Viggo Bjork ends up becoming a first-line center? What are the odds that a Chase Reed or an Ivar Stenberg is just straight up the better pick to make than Caleb Malhotra at number 3? Which one of these guys is going to be available even? Are we underrating Caleb Malhotra now? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.